Hello everyone, this is CJ Novo 982 and today we are back with another brand new video. Today's video, as always, we're here to react and break down the latest news coming out of the football club. Starting off with story number 1, which, I'm gonna be honest with you, the name scares me. Because this could go either of two ways. It could go Rachi or Rancini, and I didn't care which one to stick with. Probably neither. I'm just going to stick with Albert because that's safer. But before we continue on with story number 1, as always, if you are new around here and you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, it's free. It doesn't cost you anything. It just helps us, the nation, on our way to 55k, which we are absolutely steamrolling to. So I cannot thank you guys enough. But without any further ado, let's just get into it then, shall we? Now, if you remember, about a month ago we spoke about Umar Baldi coming into the club from Sporting Lisbon Academy. He had been trialling for a long time and he was impressing each and every single time, whether it was training or in some kind of games behind the doors friendlies. He was impressing absolutely everywhere, and that's where kind of the majority of the youth focus was, because they're looking to bring him in. Now that deal is very close to being announced, but there was another player that was rumoured alongside Baldi who just never really got the spotlight because it was all about Baldi. However, with the Baldi deal pretty much done and dusted now, there's been a player that's also young and extremely talented as well, who sort of been adding the fuel to his own fire, and that's what the press has been clicking onto in the last 24 to 48 hours. And the way he has been teasing this move to the Glasgow Rangers, that's right, you guessed it, it's always going to be social media related. That's all we ever see now with players, and like, they've got a lot more power now and they can also leave little hints a lot easier than used to back in the day. Albert's been out here liking Rangers posts left, right and centre, especially over the last couple of days, so I think it's certainly showing that his interest is now fully in the Rangers camp. I mean, he's doing it just recently. Go onto his Instagram account, you're seeing him everywhere. Now, I know what you're probably thinking here, just because he's liking posts doesn't mean he's coming up the road to the Glasgow Rangers, but I think if you add that news, especially the way he's just been going nuts in the last couple of days, and also with the news that we knew Rangers were looking at him a month ago when we were looking at Baldi as well, it certainly suggests that this deal is nearly complete. Now, I know some of you guys may be sitting here saying, CJ, why are you speaking about this? This isn't the first team news. I just want to know who we're bringing in with the first team. I want to know who's delivering 55. And I completely understand if that's the way you sort of view it and you just want to know about the first team. But for me personally, and I don't know how some of you guys feel, I've wanted Rangers to invest in youth and bring them up through that and play them in the team for, in fact, longer than I can remember. Since I was on a supporters bus when I was a wee laddie, listening to people argue about it on the supporters bus. That's built into the old DNA, and if I'm honest with you, Rangers are getting so much better at doing that. It seems like it's a real priority, and you've got to give a lot of credit to not only Rangers and the board and stuff like that, but also Craig Mulholland for not only identifying young target and working with it, but also changing the entire way our youth academy works. Instead of just playing teams week in and week out across Scotland playing those kind of academies, he has changed the entire thing and opened it up wider all over Europe. We now play the best academies around the world nearly on a monthly basis to challenge these players against the very best. And when you take a step back and you look at it, look at what we all won last season with the trophies that the youth academy won, which was unfreaking believable, but also the recruitment, going out and getting the players that we need instead of just sitting back and just being happy with what we've got. We're always challenging ourselves at the youth level to bring in the very best. And with Umar and Albert potentially coming up and signing for the Glasgow Rangers, it looks like it's another strong move to ensure the success continues to happen. But enough about the way the youth academy is working. Let's actually look at the player we could be potentially bringing in, and a player that could be a massive player for us in the future. His name's Albert Rachi. Again, sorry for mispronouncing that, but he's 15 years old and he's currently a member of the Spurs Academy, which, if you're paying attention, is a very strong academy in England who's producing players left, right and centre. However, he hasn't spent his entire career at Tottenham working his way up to the age he's at now. In fact, he only joined him a year ago. He actually originally comes from the Valencia Youth Academy, who, if you're paying attention to that as well, is very known for producing fantastic players. Not always making it at Valencia or anything like that, but if you look at some of these Spanish players who've done well over the last 10-15 years, you look at what Youth Academy came from, a lot of them actually from there. However, pulling it back to Albert and just having a look at the player himself, this is a 15-year-old who's already representing his country at the Under-17s European Championships. He's already been capped at 15 years old. And the country he represents is Albania. Now, I know a lot of people instantly go, oh, Grezda, that never worked out quite well, and you might go down that route and think of that mindset. But from what I've been able to find about Albert, he's meant to have a very level head. In fact, if you go and you just look up this lad, the little information that's there, all talk about how he's so mature beyond his age. He's already like a 25, 26-year-old up there, which spells terrific things for his career, because a lot of these boys just want money, and you mean we've seen Gresley, he loves the money, he loves the fame, he loves being an Instagram model. This guy just apparently loves football. Now, as you can imagine, because the kid's only 15 years old, there's not a lot of information that we can actually break down. I mean, we can't dive into his player profile and break down his stats, but what we do know is he's a midfield player with unbelievable speed. That's all that's said about this guy, is he's work with the ball, he's control of the football, and he's speed. He just absolutely bursts by people. The guy seems like an absolute rocket, but in a good way. And with that being said, we have reached the end of story number 1. All I'm going to ask you guys is, what's your thoughts about this move and the way that Rangers continue to invest in youth and try and bring the best players from around the youth academies? I mean, turn players heads. This guy is meant to be pretty happy at Spurs, and Spurs are meant to be very happy with this lad and see potential there. But Rangers, with the way that they're performing at the youth level, what they're winning, and also the pathway to first team football, is a massive draw for these young talented players who just want to break through and make it to the professional level. Story number 2 then, and believe it or not, it's actually going to be a young talented player who is meant to be going out alone to get first team football. Brilliant transition, CJ. But all joking in that aside, man, we've heard whispers about this for a very long time. I mean, since the end of last season, Ross Mccrorie had that interview. We've already spoken about it, where he says he was a wee bit surprised about how he was in and out the team sometimes. He couldn't get a consistent run of games, and he found it hard and a bit of a learning curve. But again, it wasn't a dig at the team, it was just saying something that took a wee bit of time to get used to. I'd certainly say that interview maybe just sparked the rumour up a little bit, and then obviously we've just brought in Joe Aribo, another centre mid, and we are unfreaking believably stacked. And we're not just stacked with just crap players. I mean, we have 4, 5, 6 very, very, very good football players now in the centre mid role, and it's going to be extremely hard for Ross Mccrorie to get game time. And because of this, it sparked another conversation, or another question I should say, to Steven Gerrard, and this is what Gerrard has had to say regarding Ross Mccrorie. With Ross, I'll have a conversation with him as the pre-season goes on. It will boil down to what Ross's ambitions are. A lot of boys think differently to the way I think. It will come down to what will satisfy Ross over the season. If he's expecting to start every game, that won't be the case, but I'll speak to him before deciding what to do next. As always, Steven Gerrard, very short and to the point whenever the press ask him a question, and one way I absolutely love it, but on the other end it comes across as absolutely savage, which, if I'm honest, makes me love it more. But regarding the statement, I don't see it as like a diss to Ross Mccrorie or anything, or even a diss to his previous interview. Maybe in the back of his mind was sort of suggesting that he knows the interview that Ross had, and he explained that he wasn't happy that he wasn't getting a run of consistent games. So maybe that's where the start every game sort of quote came in. I can understand a lot of people's putting that together on Twitter, but for me it seems like it's just a challenge to Ross Mccrorie to see where his head is actually at. Does he want to be around the first team, learning from fantastically talented football players like Stephen Davis and Scotty Arfield in there, a bit older heads who's been there and done it, who can pass that knowledge on, not playing week in and week out, but be amongst it and push the others to play at a top level? Or does the guy want to just play first team football and learn that way? Now, to be fair, the loan for Ross Mccrorie may seem absolutely baffling, and you might just be thinking there, screaming at your TV, what are you talking about, CJ? Do not loan this guy out. What are you actually thinking? But I just look back at last season, and I look at the way Greg Docherty left, and he's came back a much more well-rounded player. I mean, he's a much better player now than when he was when he left the Glasgow Rangers, and that's playing week in and week out in tough environment football. He's learned that, and so has Jordan Rosser, who I know the press is suggesting that he's on his way out, but that guy couldn't stay fit for 55 seconds, never mind delivering 55, but he went down south. He played a numerous games in a row without getting a knock. This guy hasn't been injured in 6 months, and he's been playing week in and week out. He won like 5 or 6 man of the matches in a row, so it shows if the player's right mentally and he really challenges himself while out on loan, it can certainly be a massive benefit to not only them but us as well when they come back a much better player. Now, I'm very curious to see what the Twitter poll, but also what the reaction is going to be like in the comments section below. So what do you think? Should Rangers loan Ross Mccrorie out to get first team football, or do you want him in and amongst the first team setup? While you're getting your thoughts and opinions out there, I will give you mine very briefly. I'm actually going to go with a loan, which may surprise some people, especially if you've followed the channel for a long time, but I just look at that midfield, man. We are absolutely stacked with genuine quality, and I think Ross just wants to play, and I think he's good enough to play in a lot of teams, and as long as it's a good loan to a good team in a decent league where he's going to be playing week in and week out, why not loan him out? Let him prove to himself and to Rangers that he deserves to be amongst the first team, and the only way he's going to do that is by playing first team football. And now that me and thee have had their say, let's jump over to Twitter and hear from the people. There's already been 854 votes. Thank you so much for getting involved. Now, I'm going to be honest, I am absolutely shocked at this result. I thought it was going to be the complete and utter reverse of this. 26% of the people votes for no, Rangers shouldn't loan him out, but 74% of the people agrees with me for once to loan Ross Mccrorie out, nation. I love it, son. So let's dive down and hear directly from the people. Rampant Ryan Jack says, with the amount of midfield players we have at the moment, I think it's a great move for Ross. He can only improve. Curtis says he's down the pecking order and I think a loan allows him to get game time and improve. Greg Stewart says, yes, because our midfield is really strong at the minute and I can't see him fitting in, so for me, loan is the best option. Cairo writes in, yes. Steele writes in, I think he's a first team player, best holding mid we have in my opinion, but if he isn't in the plans for regular games, a loan definitely makes sense. And we'll scroll down a little bit to give everyone a little chance. Brian Firth writes in, it would be good for him so I can get in games and learn off inexperienced players in matches and not just training. Joshua Fry writes in, I would love him to stay, but it's probably what's best for his development. I'm the exact same as you, Josh. Barlock writes in, don't we need a backup goalie with his clean sheet ratio 100%? I'm sure he'll be in with a shout. Well done. And the last one we'll read out in tonight's video, we'll scroll all the way down right to the very bottom. Let me load more. Right, we'll scroll right to the very bottom and it comes from Stevie and he writes in, yes, should go out to get game time. He certainly deserves it. So there it is, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. You've heard from the people. You've heard from myself. If you haven't done so already, get your thoughts and opinions out there. Now, before we wrap up today's video, I need to give a massive shout out to the Patreons, those absolute legends, for all their support. Again, every single penny of that goes into improving the channel. And as always, I've been CJ Novo 992. Thank you so much for watching and bye.